What is 30 days alcohol free really like? Well, first off, we have to experience it for ourselves. We can't really exactly take somebody's word for it. This journey is jagged, it's not linear, it's different for everybody. There are some similarities from what I've read and from what I've personally experienced in my first 30 days without alcohol. My goal when I quit was to quit for a year. I quickly realized that to make it to 1 year, I was going to have to break it down into smaller sections because 1 year, it just seemed like too long. So I broke it down into weeks. Then I broke it down into months. And then I broke it down later on into different milestones 6 months, 1 year. But to get to 30 days, that really is a huge milestone because the fog kind of lifts. You can kind of start to see just exactly what alcohol was doing to you. You can kind of start to see uh, the benefits. I mean, you can start to see the benefits in a week, but you can really start to notice the benefits after 30 days and just see exactly what kind of a role alcohol was playing in your life. And that is huge. That's a big key because when we're stuck in addiction, we can't really tell. First off, it's hard for us to acknowledge just our relationship with alcohol. Uh, but when we have a little bit of time under our belt, we can kind of see just exactly what alcohol was doing to us because we start to feel better. Our skin starts to clear up a little bit. We wake up every day without the hangover, without the issues that we had when we were drinking, without the bad feelings that we had, the ruminations, the anxiety, all the things that were causing us issues with alcohol. We start to kind of see that fade away. And but I'm going to go into a little bit of depth about the beginning of my sobriety and kind of tell you how it started for me and go from there. I'm 5+ years sober. If you're new to the channel, my name's Josh, and I'm living life alcohol free. And I celebrated 5 years of sobriety last month. Well, it's been a couple months now, in April. But the biggest key that I can tell you in the first 30 days is that you start to feel better. But to get to that point, it's going to take a little bit of work. I quickly realized after about a week that I wasn't as strong as I thought that I was this time. I really thought that I could do it and be done with it, but I quickly started to get triggers and start to stress out about certain things. And getting through those urges to drink were not easy. They were difficult. And I had a therapist when I started, but I didn't have a therapy visit for my first week. And when I had that first visit, I almost felt like I was going to go home and drink. I ultimately didn't. I ultimately was able to acknowledge the fact that if I slipped back into drinking again, it was going to be more difficult for me to quit again. So I decided to not do that and give myself at least a chance to make it to 1 month. Now, it was the beginning of the pandemic. It was 6 weeks into the pandemic when I finally reached this point. And I know what you all are saying. I've heard enough about the pandemic. I went through it myself. I don't really want to hear about it. I don't want to think about it. But what I'm about to tell you may just change your perspective on this and may change your life. So please stick with me through this. I've talked about this in the past. I've talked about this with my sobriety group, and let me just share it on this video with you and see if you guys can resonate with this. I was never able to quit drinking alcohol because first off, I didn't want to lose my crutch. Alcohol was what I used to cope, and it had worked for me for years, so I didn't want to lose it. But I wasn't completely able to acknowledge just how much of a disruption alcohol was causing me in my everyday life. I mean, it was just wreaking havoc on everything in my life. So I wasn't, but I wasn't able to look at that because I was addicted to it. And I really didn't notice that I was addicted to it until like I said, about 30 days. That's really what the first thing that I noticed is that I really had a problem with alcohol. It wasn't something that I could see as an addict, and I don't think that we can see it. So the first key, I think, to success and like sustained uh, being alcohol free is I wasn't working. I wasn't socializing. I wasn't going to places where alcohol was uh, being drunk around me because we weren't socializing at that time. I wasn't working because I was laid off because I had a job with the public and I wasn't going to work. So I wasn't having those triggers and those stressors that might lead me to drink when I got home. So I think, and I could be wrong on this, but I think that for me, the key was not having those triggers and then also not being around people that were drinking. And so that happened because of the pandemic. But I think that people can use that opportunity to uh, to find sobriety. So I might start this on my group and on my channel, talking more about like a plan that you could take, a plan of action, because I could never see myself quitting, or I mean, not quitting, but like taking off a long period of time for work to go into like an inpatient rehab. So when I quit drinking finally, and I was at home and I wasn't working and I wasn't going to these social get togethers, I almost found it like it was a perfect opportunity for me to have this inpatient stay in my own house where I'm recovering from my addiction. And that really was like the key to it all. Now we're all back to normal. We all started getting back to normal. Some of us started getting back to normal a year or two after the pandemic started. Some of us, it took 3 or 4 years. Um, for me, I mean, it was a slow process, and I would say that it was probably like 4 months where we got together with some friends for the first time again after that. And by then, I was already um, on stable ground, at least more stable than I was in the first month, to where I could be around people that were drinking, and then I could just have my own NA beverages and kind of, combat any urges I might have with those NA drinks. And also thinking about, hey, I've made it this far. Now I don't feel like I want to turn to alcohol because I don't want to undo the work that I did. But I think there's a secret to this. Like, if you can take off like 2 weeks to a month of work, and you can stay home, not go meet up with people that are going to be drinking, not go to bars or not go to parties where people are going to be drinking, just stay at home, either in your home or in your yard, or, take walks around your neighborhood or whatever. But like, eliminate those work triggers, eliminate those triggers of people that are drinking around you. Because let's face it, we all get FOMO, fear of missing out. And when we're looking at people that are drinking, um, it might just, spur us to want to just uh, drink. And then we undo the work that we already put in. So if you can afford to take some time off of work, I would suggest doing that. If you really think that your drinking is an issue, I would suggest try to take off a couple weeks of work, at least a week, and instead of like taking a vacation and going somewhere or doing nothing and just drinking and reading and whatever we do if we have like a staycation, instead of focusing on that, focus on sobriety, focus on recovery, focus on uh, doing other things that bring us joy besides drinking alcohol. Like for me, in my first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month, I started walking my dogs more. I started walking more. I started hiking more. I started reading more, quit lit. I started reading literature about sobriety, about how I can stay sober. And those are the kinds of things that helped me get through that first 30 days of having urges to drink. I didn't have tons of strong urges. Like I said, that urge to drink after my first therapy visit, it was like day 8 that I hadn't been drinking. I had a 15 pack of beer in my fridge and I was ready to go home and drink it after my therapy visit. Ultimately, I decided that I didn't want to wash away all the voices of those people at my house, my wife, my daughters that I care about, and that 15 pack of beer sat in my fridge for like 4 months, all summer basically, until I got to the end of August, and I ended up just dumping all that beer out. I got rid of it, and I didn't think anything of it anymore. It was satisfying to do that. Um, I actually had the thought of taking that case of beer or that 15 pack, taking it to a brick wall and just chucking one can after another, just watching it explode, and how gratifying that might be to do that. But I ultimately was like, you know what? I'm not angry anymore. I don't feel like that anymore. I don't feel mad, bitter, angry. Uh, and it wasn't just that I didn't feel bitter and angry towards alcohol. It was just that I didn't feel anxious and irritable and angry at myself, at everybody around me. I started to figure out that I have more patience. I actually had patience within me all that time as a drinker, but I couldn't get it for long periods of time because I continued to go back to alcohol, and that just kind of undoes things. It makes you feel like that getting to that binge session is like the number one goal. Then you drink. The anticipation of it all day is fun. You might have a hangover in the morning, but by like lunchtime it starts to wear off, and then you start to think about alcohol again. And you might think about it for a few hours until you get to that uh, binge session or hang out with friends or whatever you're doing. You have fun while you're doing it. Then you get to the end of the night, you pass out, you wake up, and you're hungover again, and you might have anxiety, you might have headaches, you might have nausea, you might have all these things, and then, like I said, you get through your morning, that all kind of fades away, and then the thoughts of drinking again come back. But when we get to a month sober and all those days and weeks leading up to that, we start to do things that actually bring us joy instead of turning to alcohol. And we start to recognize that those things feel better in our lives than alcohol does. And I think that if we can do our best to eliminate those work triggers, those social settings where alcohol is present, and if we need to get rid of the alcohol in our house, do it. I didn't need to do that. Uh, like I said, I kind of just was surprised that that could be in my fridge, and I wasn't um, tempted to open it up more frequently than I was. There were days that I had urges. There were days that I felt that tug, uh, and I had to because I actually did add a couple different beers into the fridge for like a party that we were going to have, a graduation party, and I actually had to dump those out because those were the beers that I liked more than the regular beer that I drank on a normal occasion. So I had to dump those craft beers out pretty quickly because those are the ones that I wanted to reach for. But if you need to dump all of it out or get rid of it all, like I would say do that because just not having that uh, at hand might help. If you have to actually physically get in your car and go up and buy it at the store, or and some people order their beer now or their liquor or their wine, and you can just order it, but you don't have to take that step. You don't have to take that process. So eliminating that might actually help you. But I could feel the fog lifting. I remember sitting on my deck, closing my eyes, feeling the warm breeze, the warm summer breeze hit my face, and thinking, I am, I feel like this might be what it feels like to be in a recovery center, sitting out on their porch, feeling that breeze and feeling like a, um, I was getting over a long term disease. And that's literally what I was doing. I was getting over a long term illness, a disease that I had for almost 30 years that I wasn't able to get rid of in the first place until I finally found a community of people online from a book that I read, This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, Alcohol Explained by William Porter, and it all made sense when I read those books that why I was addicted, my goals on how I can stay sober, and I joined that group and I never looked back. So since then, I get on there every now and then, but I do have my own group, and you're welcome to join it. It's a private group on Facebook. It's called Sobriety in the Storm. I'll pin the link in the comments below. I'll also pin a link to my other videos. I've got tons of helpful sobriety videos for you. You can click on that link. Also, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'd be forever grateful for you to join this journey with me, and hit that little notification bell so when I've come out with new videos Wednesdays and Sundays, you'll get the notification for those. And also, I do a live stream on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So thanks for joining me, and I hope that you get your 30 days sober and you can keep going. So have a great day, everybody.